Hey Eurovision fans, it's Tom coming to you from Shanghai, back for another Eurovision reaction video. Tonight I'm going to be giving you my opinion on the results of semi-final number 2 of Benidorm Fest, that's Spain's national final. I'm going to talk about the 7 acts that competed as well as the 4 that qualified for the final. So, let's kiki. As always, I may put timestamps in the progress bar if I get around to it. Before I talk about the 7 acts, first thing we noticed was that the presenter had a Tamta makeover. I'm pretty sure she wasn't wearing a wig. I think she had dyed her hair. She looked like she was going to a Halloween party as Tamta. It was very odd. I'm not sure if she knew who Tamta was and if it was a conscious thing to dress up as her. Anyway, that was one thing. Okay, first up we had Xeinn. That's apparently how you spell Xeinn in Spain. This performance was, it was very Melfesty. I thought his vocals were quite decent. It's actually quite a difficult song to sing. I thought his performance was very timid. He didn't make much of a connection. I don't get the impression he's a particularly seasoned performer. Yeah, it was a little bit of a flop for me. I'm not sure if there were meant to be some interactions with this girl who was dancing in the screen in the background. There were a couple times where it looked like the whole performance was on the edge of collapsing. Some of the camera shots around the back looked very unusual. It looked like maybe they were a little bit lost in their stage. I'm not sure if something went wrong. If Chanel was a 10 out of 10 confidence in semi-final number 1, I'd say that he was probably around a 5. And it was quite distracting. He looked inhibited and wasn't able to move freely. Just a very stark contrast between him and actually some of the people who came out later who were much more relaxed and able to get into the whole performance and give it 100%. I feel like he wasn't really able to let himself completely go. He had a giant condom above him. I find that very distracting as well. As like, it started off having smoke in it and then it just hung above his head as this gigantic hanging condom. Just incredibly distracting. Plus the staging, nothing happened. He basically just stood on a circular platform. At the end of it, he had some graphics. They looked very Robin Banks-esque. There were a lot of things in this that looked like a Melfest, and it made me realize how a lot of the guys in Melfest, Anton Ewald, Robin Bengtsson, Eric Sade, it made me realize how their confidence in their performances really glues the performance together, and without that, it just made me appreciate how the Melfest boys really do bring it most of the time. I think it's one of the stronger songs, and it's quite radio friendly, and that's the reason that it probably went through in the end. Sorry, I'm so tired right now. I can't get my words out properly. Okay, next up was Marta Sango. When she came onto the stage, I kind of loved their costumes. It was very drag in Glasgow. And she had 2 dancers with her. The dancer on her left, which would have been camera right, was beyond extra. He was the most extra person I've ever seen. I think if he could, he would have started licking the camera. He was just absolutely giving it 100%, which is great. It was a little bit distracting. I have to admit, the whole time I was going to him because he was kind of giving me the googly eyes the whole time. I think she elevated the song. I thought it was a little bit boring when I listened to it in my original reaction, but actually on stage I think she gave it a bit of life. And I kind of like their costumes. It was very kitsch, alien, electro 80s alien disco costume. I don't know, I was kind of rooting for her, but I think it was fair that this didn't qualify because really the song just isn't really there. Yeah, my notes to myself I've written it was fun and heartfelt, but it just a bit cheap and maybe looked a little bit club performance. Third up was Javiera Mena with Culpa. When we saw the first shot of this performance, her on the top of the stage, I actually was a bit taken away because it looked like it was going to be quite expensive and deluxe, and it just instantly went downhill. I was quite surprised how it was. Her vocals sounded quite shaky. Definitely not as good as in the studio version, and the whole thing just looked very demure, and very sleepy. It kind of looked like they were all in the club at 9 a.m. and they'd all taken something earlier, but it started wearing off, and it was that kind of droopy stage just before you try and get a taxi home. The styling of her dancers it was a bit going to Starbucks chic. They were almost dressed as someone on the street would be dressed. They're just very underwhelming. They had these bars at the side which did some cool shapes that were synchronized. I just kept on getting this feeling of emptiness on stage, and the camera cuts weren't correct. It's been really noticeable in this semi-final how people who get their camera cuts and cinematography right, it just ties the whole performance together and keeps it flowing, and you don't notice all these little awkward things. It just feels very artistic and professional, and the ones who don't have that, it's very obvious and it makes you feel a little bit awkward, or the performance isn't going well, like they're lost, and it's interesting how much it seems to amplify that. And the bit in the song which I love the most is that incredible breakdown. Now, I wanted them to just go absolutely crazy, like really just uninhibited, a little bit like Rigoberta did later on. Instead, it just still looked too timid, and she was up on the stage doing her pianos, but I was like, no, leave the piano, go get crazy in the center. This is her moment to shine. So I feel like that was a really lost opportunity. That's the funnest, wildest, wackiest part of the song, and she wasn't even making eye contact. She was kind of like working her piano. So there were just a lot of staging errors. Okay, the fourth song up was Gonzalo Hermida with whatever the song is called, Quién, diría. Look, guys, I'm sorry, I don't like this song. I think this song is so snoozy, and maybe it might have some incredible meaning, like it's the lyrics for the cure for cancer. I don't care. I still think it's really dull. It's the little postcard saying that he was sick. When he came on, I was like, whoa, this production is absolutely insane. And then I realized that it was pre-recorded. It sounded like the studio version over him lip syncing. Now, that might be wrong. That's what it sounded like. If he did that as a live performance and that was his vocal, fair play to him because it sounded great. But if he had the studio version over him lip syncing, it didn't even look like it was on the stage. It looked like a pre-recorded performance. I think that's so unfair. He sounded absolutely perfect. I think the song is super blah. I think it... I don't know. I'm speculating, so I'm not sure. But if someone knows, please let me know in the comment section. But if it is that he got to have a pre-recorded thing, actually he got a huge advantage over everybody else. I do not think this would have qualified if it wasn't for how flawless it's done. It's a very dull song. Okay, so fifth up was Rigoberta Bandini. As you may recall, in my original reaction, I didn't make it through this whole song. I didn't have any of the background about who she was or who the favorites were at that time, which I try to do in my videos because I'm very conscious about being biased towards certain songs, especially with some of the stuff that happened last year with Malta and others. So I did listen to the whole performance. I definitely enjoyed it a lot more than I did the first time. I made it through the whole way, of course. I have positives and negatives about this. First of all, the positives are, I get the message. The giant boob ball at the end is very in your face in a good way. You know, I think the message of the song is free the nipple. I'm sure hundreds of people will correct me, but it's something to do with breastfeeding. So I think that's a great message, and that aspect of it is very universal. I can see why I tuned out at the start the first time. The start is a little bit slow to get into it. The ending is really cool, and I like when they kind of improvise. It seems like they're all jumping around and having a great time. It really reminds me of Bojana Stamanov, the girl from Serbia in 2015, where it's quite pared down at the start and a bit more kind of formal, and then they all kind of go wild, and there's this fun, wacky, wild improvisation. She hit a note at the end that was just absolutely spellbinding. I did have like tingles from that. It was really, really, really special. And she seemed to have like a very warm, friendly personality. So there were lots of things I liked about it. In terms of the actual song and the melody, without knowing what all the lyrics mean and stuff, I'm not there yet. Like, I definitely would put it higher up on my rankings. I'm not at the point yet where I would download this yet. I could possibly see it in the future. For me, the confusing thing and how to like estimate this chances is how much is she going to change if she was to win. This is one of the favorites to win. If this isn't translated into English, I just think the majority of people watching the Eurovision final are going to switch off within that first 90 seconds and they won't even get to the final part. Then it's a case of, well, how much is she going to translate into English? Actually, Barre was totally in English and Manel was mostly in English. So they have done it before, it's not present. It made me think a little bit of Italy though with Occidentali's Karma, where that song was really fun and quirky lyrically, but they didn't translate anything in the end, which I thought was a little bit of a mistake. I think they probably should have even just a couple of lines, just so people know what was going on, because in the end then people just looked at that and they saw this is a guy in a monkey costume, he's taking the piss, without the context of people watching this, and they see a giant nipple, and first of all, I don't know if it'll be allowed in Eurovision, and second of all, it's that thing, it needs an explanation. It's hard for me to judge how this can do at Eurovision without knowing what decisions she's going to make in terms, is it getting a revamp? Are they going to do something about that start to keep people actually watching the performance? How much English is going to be on? How much explanation of the lyrics? This seems to have hit a note with Spanish people in terms of its lyrical significance. As somebody who doesn't understand Spanish, it did absolutely none of that for me. It just went totally over my head, but that is the majority of people who are going to be watching the Eurovision final. I'm much more at peace with this than I was before. Before I was kind of like, oh, Mal, I can't believe this might win. I'm okay with if it wins, but yeah, there's just so many ifs right now that I don't know how to address. Okay, sixth up was Rayden. This was my biggest grower of the night. He absolutely grabbed me right from the start. He had a really great connection with the camera. He seemed very competent, really stark contrast to Xeinn in terms of performance ability. I feel his vocals are great. They're not like a particular wow vocal, but just very full of character and personality, and just able to build like a friendship with the viewer quite quickly. I love this very intimate staging that they had, where he was close to the camera all the time, talking directly into it, and then these 5 guys popped up, and they all seemed quite quirky and interesting, and they seemed like a group of friends. And even though I didn't understand the meaning of the song, they were kind of acting for me and drawing me in with facial expressions and body language and just this cheery manner that just was very absorbing. This was such a massive growth for me. I thought I was not going to have any interest in it, but it really elevated. On top of that, I never really appreciated the kind of rock guitar elements into it until I saw them on stage, and they kind of drew my eye towards that. And then I was thinking, wow, this is a lot like Cosa Mostra in 2013, and they had that same vibe, that real, and actually the same kind of similar gravelly voice. It was really in that vein, and Casa Mostra did really excellent. I think they came 6th. I had the kilts as well, so there were lots of things that were like small nods to that. I just really enjoyed the whole performance. This was the only other thing that gave me tingles. I've had 3 tingles so far. This, Chanel, and Rigoberta. I have to admit, I didn't really get tingles with Tansugueras, which I can't pronounce. I'm giving up. I'm giving up on pronouncing Tansugueras. Let's just call them Tiny Girls. Tiny Girls just didn't give me tingles, but big caveat to that is that apparently they didn't have any time to rehearse because one of the girls came in late, so she missed the bus. They didn't have time to rehearse, and apparently a lot of the staging things that they wanted to happen didn't happen, so lots of sad stories behind that. Okay, last up was Sara Deop. This is one of my favorite studio versions. I love that really super chill, summery feel, but the actual stage show was really hot and messy. I thought she looked great. She looked super gorgeous. Her vocals sounded good. It was kind of good. She was hitting the notes, but it wasn't a lot of power behind it. It felt like it was a bit difficult maybe, so it didn't come out super clear. The staging was really hot and messy. She had some Surrey storm rings that she was walking through, and then she had the dancers, and then the dancers disappeared and they came back in rollerblades. It was, oh god, I properly gasped in the worst possible way. It was a bad gasp. On top of that, because she had to wait for them to do up their laces and everything while they're putting the rollerblades on, she full on like lied down on the stage, which didn't exactly give like energetic vibe. In fairness to Sarah, I feel so bad for her because she must have seen Chanel's performance and gone, oh fuck-a-doodle-doo, what the fuck are we gonna do? This is way better than what we have planned. It's very similar genre. I think they even share a songwriter. There was nothing they could have done to come up with a last minute plan to save this, so I really feel for her. That must have definitely knocked her confidence, knowing that Chanel already had this amazing choreography planned and this really put together performance that just absolutely flowed, and then she had 4 dudes on roller skates, and even when they came out on the roller skates, they all looked like they were like trying not to fall. It was so poorly conceived. I really felt bad for her. I think she ended up coming last in the semi, so I hope she gets to come back in the future with some better decision making in the team around her. Okay, so that's what I thought about the 7 songs. In the end, Xeinn, Gonzalo, Rigoberta, and Rayden went through. I disagree with Gonzalo. I think he had a huge advantage from whatever happened, unless he sang that himself, in which case, yeah, fine. I still think the song is very dull. I probably would have preferred Javiera Mena to go through, but in fairness, I don't think she really delivered, and there were too many mistakes with her staging choices. So in the end, I think the final we've got is really good. I am hopefully going to do a final preview video. I'm going to have to wait and see. I'm absolutely exhausted right now. We're coming to Chinese New Year in China, which means that we have to work extra days to make up for the holidays that we're getting. Don't ask. It's a Chinese thing. It doesn't make any sense. So I have to work a 7-day week to make up for next week. I'm off next week. Benidorm Fest will be over by then, so that's not particularly useful. Yes, if possible, I would do a final preview, but in any case, I really enjoyed the second semi. I would probably say I enjoyed it on a similar level to semi 1 because Rigoberta and Rayden really went up for me. So that was nice that I get those performances more and I get the appeal of them more than I did before. The final looks great. Blanca, Chanel, Gonzalo, Rayden, Rigoberta, Tiny Girls, Vara Brava, and Xeinn. I would imagine I'll save it all for my preview video if I'm gonna do it. If I don't do a preview video, I'm sorry. I'm only human. There's just too many videos to do and I'm slowly dying inside. I need to catch up on sleep. You can probably see how sleepy I am. Okay, in any case, that's what I thought about semi-final number 2 of Benidorm Fest in Spain. Please let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in another version back video very soon. Goodbye.